Good morning and welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be going over daily gold. Now just stick around and enjoy the video. Okay, so today we are going to be going over daily gold. Now the things of note while we're actually going ahead of this, we're actually going to be getting into a little bit of an inscription thing for today, because I thought I'd give it a test and see if it was actually worth it. So alongside that, let's just jump into our mailbox and then we can conclude with all of that stuff. So, in the case, the gold for the day is a healthy 110,612 gold. The things of note are butterscotch marinated ribs, and that marinated ribs, 2,928. 7 of repose, 6 of those for 5,726 gold. Ace of pursuance, 9 of those for 8,558 gold. The ace of repose, 7 of those for 2,001 gold apparently. Spectral flask of stamina, 84 of those for 39,571 gold. Darkmoon deck of pursuance, 14,267 gold. Spectral Flask of Stamina, 2,826 gold, and 2 Darkmoon decks of Indomitability, 13 of those, 2 of those for 13,411 gold. Other things of note is Luminous Pigment, 133 of that for 3,219 gold, as well as 25,552 Netherweave Cloth for 3,695 gold. I'm glad I got rid of all of that. That is kind of good. You wouldn't have got any more for that on this server, so I'm quite happy with that overall. So what we've actually seen that is actually selling quite well is loads of the cards for the Darkmoon decks and the Darkmoon decks in general, bringing our total up to 110,612 gold. Spoilers, I think you know what I've actually been doing for like the past day, and that was actually investing a heavy chunk of gold into Darkmoon decks. And if we actually jump into our auction house, so we go onto our Bruto Sword, we can actually see that what we've actually got here is loads of the different cards. They all have a sell rate of around about 0.1, so I'm really not overly that worried. And what I did was I actually was watching Breg Vids' video on it, and he actually suggested doing 60,000 gold worth of Death Blossom plus 20,000 gold worth of Nightshade. So I thought, I think I'll give that a go, because I can do that and it will finally knock off the end part to my inscription leveling. So I was like, okay, right, let's give this a go. And then I went, let's times all that by 4. So I sent over the relevant amount of gold, which was 80,000 gold's worth of Nightshade plus 240,000 gold's worth of Death Blossom. So I did that, and that actually came to a healthy amount of gold's worth of stuff. And overall, all of this stuff came to, like, after milling it, all of those things, and then turning those into the different different cards and then their relevant decks. If I had the actual crafts for that, I would then actually just go ahead and sell everything after that. So I was like, okay, why am I selling everything? Well, I wanted to see what things would actually sell, so this was like a little bit of a test for me, because do the actual standalone cards actually sell for a decent chunk? Because the decks are selling quite well, so would other people do the same? So I was like, okay, right, that's a good idea. And I was looking at all of this and I was like, okay, right, that's not too bad. But the thing I did notice though with this is you need a pretty strong startup cost. So for me, it was 240,000 gold worth of Death Blossom and 80,000 gold worth of Nightshade. Now that was enough to get me started, and then I would need to actually reinvest another low chunk in order to actually get more cards. So that was the startup fee for me. And then all I'd do is, I think the way in which you would probably want to go about doing it, just by what I was judging this by, is you could run this off of the profit you would get from the decks. It's actually relatively quite easy to do that, so you could do that. But while you're waiting for the decks to get sold, you could always do another investment. And the way you probably want to do it is you would want to have that set up, so we'll just halve it for simplicity's sake, like 120k's worth of Death Blossom milled as your startup cost, as well as 40,000 gold's worth of Nightshade. That's your startup cost as well. Turn those into their relevant inks, and then craft all of the cards that you can. And then after that, the following day, once you've sold any of the decks that you've been able to create, you would then invest another 80k into that, and that will be your float. You would have an 80k float to reproduce any extra cards day after day after day after day. So you've got your initial startup cost plus your actual float. So the float would be standard and the startup cost would be there. So if you're getting into Darkmoon decks, I'd highly recommend that type of way of going about it, is by having your initial startup cost, then having a float, in which once you've got your float up together, so that's 80k of like a float or something to that effect, you could scale this as much as you want. You could do 160k if you really wanted to. Doesn't really matter, it depends on how well you actually want to go ahead and do it. Obviously, the less gold you pump into it, the less cards you'll be able to make. You are not comfortable with spending this amount of gold, I'd probably stay away from Darkmoon decks, because for obvious reasons, not a lot of people are willing to risk a heavy chunk of gold to actually just lose it. It's like a lot more than a game time. So if we actually went into the token price right now, yeah, that's like double the amount of the token that you could potentially lose. So just so you know, if you're uncomfortable with losing that amount of gold, don't invest. I'm okay with losing that type of gold because that's why I like to test all this stuff out. But if you aren't willing to lose that amount of gold, you should never invest it into making gold, is kind of the philosophy I actually take to that approach. So aside from all of that, that is pretty much what I've been doing. I've just been crafting Darkmoon cards. I have noticed that this is definitely well worth actually pursuing. So what I'll do is I'll probably actually cancel scan all of these cards and then just keep a float up of selling just the decks, and then do a craft each and every day until it just becomes not profitable anymore. So other than that, guys, that is pretty much all I have to say for all of that. So as long as the eye levels for these Darkmoon decks is like at like eye level 200, then the prices are still adjusting going into WorthIt, you could definitely still pull in a heavy chunk of gold even if you aren't farming to craft. So that is something you can do right there. Other than that, this has been quite a nice day. It just starting off the actual day to do all of that stuff. I have a few videos planned for the rest of the week. I've got to do a bit more planning on those for the upcoming days. But other than that, guys, I probably will be actually focusing on doing some more leveling over the Christmas period. And also, how are you finding WorthIt, the little update that I did yesterday? I would like to know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Other than that, guys, that is pretty much all I have to say for today. Take it easy, and I shall see you in the next video, which will be tomorrow. If you want to support the channel and help make the channel even better, then why not check out the Patreon? Members get additional info, gold making resources, and Patreon specific content. The link is located in the description down below. Thank you and have an awesome day.